Welcome to the Bite Size Fitness Show, where we talk all things fitness, nutrition, and habits, and break them down into smaller, more digestible, bite-sized pieces of content for you to enjoy. My name is Sean Bikirk, and I am your host, and in today's episode, I'm going to be explaining why drinkers are healthier than non-drinkers. So it's a juicy topic. I'm going to get right into it. Years ago, a study came out showing that people who drank low to moderate amounts of alcohol were actually healthier than those who didn't drink alcohol at all. Now, before you go all crazy and question the validity of this study, I can assure you this is true. So when this came out, and you might remember when this came out, there was a lot of discussion about how could this possibly be. People came out with their hypotheses, their theories as to maybe there are some beneficial qualities of alcohol that we hadn't really questioned before. And none of these really ended up holding true. So there had to be a more simple solution. There had to be a more simple answer. And it turns out there is quite the simple explanation for this. So instead of looking at the drinkers, it's more important to look at who doesn't drink alcohol. And when we think of who doesn't drink alcohol, we tend to think of the 1%, the people who really are healthy, that are taking care of their bodies, that are maybe like a vegetarian or a vegan, exercising a lot, drinking tons of water, just, that top 1%. And although those people exist, it's a pretty small demographic. And turns out there's a much bigger demographic of people who skew the data towards influencing this study to come up with the results that they did. And these people include those who are on medications, those who have pre-existing medical conditions, and those who have former addictions to alcohol and drugs. Now, as you can imagine, these people tend to not be the most metabolically healthy people in the world. So what you can conclude from this is that alcohol itself had nothing to do with any sort of health benefit effects. If anything, and we know this for a fact, alcohol is toxic. So people who drink alcohol, it's not that alcohol is making them healthier. It's definitely taking that health away from them. But it also shows that in low to moderate doses, it's probably not the end of the world. What it does show is that those who drink alcohol probably have a baseline level of health and a little bit of discretionary allowance to do things that might be a little bit more harmful. Whereas if you already have a pre-existing condition, if you're already on medication, your doctor's going to tell you not to drink. And that's going to influence this study. So the reason I did this episode, the reason I did this video is to explain that when a headline comes out and looks really sensationalized, it's probably not a lie, but not what it seems. And I did the exact same thing with the headline in this video just to capture your attention and to prove a point, right? So it's, even though, yes, technically drinkers are healthier than non-drinkers, it has nothing to do with the alcohol itself. It has to do with who the non-drinkers are. And non-drinkers can't drink because that would make their health conditions even worse. And we see headlines like this all the time, even still. So recently a study came out, and I'll probably do an entire episode on this as well, showing that aspartame, so artificial sweeteners, got listed as a possible carcinogenic, right? So it means potentially cancerous, and people freaked out. Now, of course, that's not ideal. You want it to come out and say, no, it's absolutely not. But for some context, there are different levels that the IARC deems carcinogenic. So we have at the top, definitely carcinogenic, then we have probably, then possibly, and then either unknown or no. And aspartame was put into possibly. For some context, that's in the same group as coffee and pickled vegetables. And if there was a study and a headline that came out and showed that coffee is potentially carcinogenic, once again, the sensationalism out there would be insane. The next level above that, probably carcinogenic, would be like red meats, which we consume all the time. And at the very top, the ones that are definitely carcinogenic are the obvious ones, like smoking and radiation and processed meats. And you guessed it, alcohol. Okay, so once again, the reason I did this video is to not jump to conclusions when you see a headline, because even if they're not untrue, there might be a lot of truth hidden in the deep parts of the studies that you're not reading. So I would suggest either read the study itself, not the headline, or refer to someone who you would consider an expert in the field, who's able to curate all that information for you and give you a bit more nuance. Because it's very easy to see those studies and assume that alcohol is healthy. It's easy to see those studies and assume that aspartame is going to kill you, right? So none of those things are necessarily true. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.